Amara Williams stands in the federal courtroom, hands cuffed behind her back, wearing an orange jumpsuit that hangs loose on her 25-year-old frame. Judge Richard Caldwell, a white man in his 60s with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, reviews her case file with a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. The prosecutor has just finished presenting evidence of alleged international wire fraud totaling $200,000 across 9 different countries. Amara is accused of creating fake identities to steal money from translation clients. The judge adjusts his glasses and asks if she has anything to say before he considers sentencing guidelines. Amara lifts her chin, looks him directly in the eye, and states in a calm, clear voice that she speaks 9 languages fluently. Judge Caldwell throws his head back and laughs loudly, the sound bouncing off the courtroom walls. Other people in the gallery join in. The prosecutor smiles. Even Amara's own public defender looks embarrassed. But Amara's expression remains completely still, her dark eyes unwavering as the laughter echoes around her. And in that frozen moment, nobody in that courtroom has any idea that everything they think they know is about to shatter. 6 months earlier, Amara worked as a junior translator at Global Connect International, a prestigious translation firm housed in a gleaming glass building in downtown Philadelphia. She had grown up just miles away in West Philadelphia, raised by her Haitian grandmother, Marie Claire, in a narrow row house with peeling paint and a front step that creaked. Her grandmother spoke Creole and French, languages that became Amara's first gifts, whispered lullabies and bedtime stories that planted seeds in her young mind. By the time Amara was 8 years old, she was translating for neighbors at the local clinic, helping Dominican families speak to doctors, helping Chinese shop owners file paperwork. The gift for languages wasn't just talent, it was hunger. She would sit in the public library for hours after school, teaching herself Spanish from textbooks, then Portuguese, then Mandarin. She befriended immigrant families in her neighborhood, trading English lessons for lessons in Arabic, German, Italian, Russian. By 16, she was fluent in 9 languages, but she had no college degree, no formal credentials, just an extraordinary ability that she'd built from nothing but determination and borrowed books. Global Connect hired her at 23 because she was cheap labor, someone they could pay less than half what they paid their credentialed translators. But she didn't care. She was grateful just to use her skills to help people communicate across borders. For 2 years, she worked there, translating documents from Mandarin to English, from Arabic to English, whatever they needed. She was good at it, fast and accurate, and she started to notice things. In late March, she was assigned a batch of financial documents from a Chinese manufacturing company, contracts and wire transfer records that needed translation for a legal case. As she worked through the Mandarin text, something struck her as wrong. The numbers didn't match up with the stated purposes. Wire transfers labeled as equipment purchases were going to personal accounts. She flagged it to her supervisor, Derek Morrison, a white man in his mid-40s with perfect teeth and expensive suits who always smelled like cologne that cost more than her monthly rent. Derek told her not to worry about it, said the legal team would sort it out. But Amara couldn't let it go. She started looking at other documents she'd translated for Global Connect, going back through files, and she found a pattern. The company was facilitating money laundering for international clients, using translation services as a front to move money through legitimate-looking business transactions. She printed evidence, made copies, and went to human resources. The HR director, a white woman named Patricia Hughes, listened to her presentation with a blank expression and then said she would investigate. 2 weeks passed. Nothing happened. Derek Morrison continued working, the suspicious transactions continued flowing through the company, and Amara started to feel like she'd made a terrible mistake in speaking up. Then, on a Tuesday morning in early May, FBI agents raided her grandmother's house at 5:30 in the morning. Amara woke to the sound of her grandmother screaming, to heavy boots on the stairs, to men in bulletproof vests tearing through her tiny bedroom. They found false passports, fake identification documents from 9 different countries, bank statements in multiple names, all hidden in a box under her bed. Amara had never seen any of it before. Her grandmother, 72 years old with a weak heart, collapsed in the hallway. Paramedics took her to the hospital while agents handcuffed Amara and took her downtown. The evidence seemed overwhelming. Bank accounts in her name in China, France, Brazil, Germany, the United Arab Emirates, Italy, Russia, Mexico, and 2 in the United States. Each account had deposits that matched exactly what the timeline of translation projects she'd worked on at Global Connect. Each account was in one of the 9 languages she spoke. The FBI agent who interrogated her, Thomas Crawford, a white man with a crew cut and cold blue eyes, laid it all out for her. She had been using her position at Global Connect to create fake identities in multiple countries, then stealing money from clients by routing funds to these accounts. The fraud totaled $200,000. She faced 20 years in federal prison. Amara tried to explain about the money laundering she'd discovered, about Derek Morrison, about how this was clearly a setup, but Agent Crawford just smiled and said, "That's what all criminals say when they get caught." She was assigned a public defender, a young white attorney named Jacob Chen, who looked exhausted before their first meeting even began. He had 42 other cases, he told her, and hers didn't look good. The evidence was substantial, well documented, and the federal government had a 97% conviction rate. He advised her to take a plea deal, 15 years, maybe out in 10 with good behavior. Amara refused. She insisted she was innocent, told him everything about Derek Morrison and the money laundering. Jacob listened with the patient expression of someone who'd heard 1,000 desperate stories and believed none of them. He didn't believe someone without a college degree could speak 9 languages. He thought she was exaggerating, maybe spoke some basic phrases, maybe conversational level at best. When she tried to demonstrate, switching between Mandarin and Arabic mid-sentence, he waved her off. Parlor tricks wouldn't help in court. The bail hearing was a nightmare. The prosecutor, Amanda Westbrook, a polished white woman in her 50s with perfect posture and a reputation for ruthlessness, argued that Amara was a flight risk with connections in 9 countries. The judge set bail at $500,000. Amara's grandmother's house was worth maybe $80,000, and that was being generous. There was no way to make bail. Amara was transferred to county jail to await trial. She spent 4 months in a cell that smelled like disinfectant and despair, surrounded by other women who looked like her, black and brown faces who'd also been chewed up by a system designed to devour them. Her grandmother's health deteriorated without Amara there to help with medications, to cook meals, to manage doctor appointments. Amara called her every day, heard her grandmother's voice getting weaker, but there was nothing she could do from behind bars. She used the time to read every law book in the prison library, teaching herself criminal procedure, rules of evidence, constitutional law. She learned about the right to self-representation. She learned how to file motions. She learned that the system had rules, and if she understood the rules better than her enemies, maybe she had a chance. The trial date arrived in early November. She was transported to federal court in chains, shackled at the wrists and ankles, shuffling into a courtroom that felt designed to make her feel small. The room was all dark wood and high ceilings, the seal of the United States mounted behind the judge's bench like a warning. Judge Richard Caldwell presided, a man known for harsh sentences and a particular distaste for defendants of color. The jury was mostly white, mostly middle-aged, people who would look at her and see a criminal before she even opened her mouth. The prosecutor, Amanda Westbrook, wore a navy suit and pearls. The media was there because the case had gotten attention. A young black woman with no education accused of sophisticated international fraud, a narrative that fit comfortably into assumptions about criminality and deception. The story was already written in everyone's minds before the trial even began. Amara sat at the defense table in an ill-fitting suit that Jacob had brought her, and she knew with absolute certainty that if she let this trial proceed as planned, she would spend the next 15 years in prison for crimes she didn't commit. Prosecutor Amanda Westbrook delivered her opening statement with the confidence of someone who'd won 98% of her cases and expected this one to be no different. She told the jury about a young woman who exploited her supposed language skills to commit fraud on an international scale. She used words like sophisticated, manipulative, dangerous, words that carried weight, that conjured images of criminal masterminds rather than a 25-year-old who grew up in West Philadelphia. She painted a picture of someone who spent years planning this scheme, learning just enough of various languages to fool people, to create false identities, to steal from honest businesses. The first witness was FBI agent Thomas Crawford, who took the stand in his dark suit and described the morning raid with clinical precision. He explained how they'd received an anonymous tip about Amara's activities, how they'd obtained warrants, how they'd found the evidence exactly where the tip said it would be.